Welcome to Smart Finance 360, the podcast where money matters meet innovative thinking. Every week, we dive deep into the world of finance, exploring trends, debunking myths, and bringing you the latest insights from industry experts. Whether you're a seasoned investor, a financial newbie, or somewhere in between, this is your go-to source for becoming financially savvy. All right, welcome to another podcast of Smart Finance 360, your mortgage and more. We got Brad Jacobson here. He is a real estate investor turned into real estate success here. He's got a really cool story of how you can buy multiple properties of real estate by just being a W-2 worker, being self-employed. He kind of teaches people how they can get through, any type of, economic environment and buy houses. So for you, Brad, what was the first thing for you that, made you decide to become an investor? How did it all happen? How did you just wake up one day and say, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to buy tons of houses?
It was not an overnight thing. I never intended on being an investor. No one in my family owns any real estate. I don't have any aunts, uncles, cousins, friends.
So you were the first.
Yeah.
You're the change of generational kind of education and wealth by buying real estate.
Yes, I am the first. I think I can formally call myself an investor.
Congratulations.
And the way it worked, it's so funny because it's backwards. This will show you my mindset shift. But my senior year of college at Weber State there in Ogden, I was about to graduate and about to get a job and was about to have money for the first time in my life.
I know how that is.
What I thought. And so I looked for the best books on finance because I wanted to figure out what to do with my 401k. At that point, I didn't have a 401k, and I figured that once I got a job, I'd start saving for retirement. Yeah. And it was as dumb as that, but about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and didn't get a 401k for many years.
So it's a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah, by Robert Kiyosaki. It's 25 years old, and anyone who's read it is a raving fan.
Really?
I don't think I know anyone who's sincerely read it and not.
So you read it and inspired you, and then did you just take verbatim of what you learned in the book, or what insight did you get from that book that made you just go out and decide, let's look at real estate as kind of a thing that you can use as a financial tool for retirement and for income, etc.?
I think I grasped the concept pretty quickly of leverage.
Okay.
Before I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I don't want to call myself a Dave Ramsey geek, but I knew Dave Ramsey. Yeah. I had read all his books, and I did his Financial Peace University, and I was really good about saving. I was always saving 15% or more of my income, despite being broke.
Yeah, I already had that kind of consistency of dedication to, what's the word? Not dedication, but
that's frugal.
Save, frugal.
Yeah, so I had a paid off car. I had 10 grand in the bank. I got through school debt free by just being
Congrats, good for you.
And cheap.
So when you read this book, it was kind of a match made in heaven, I would say.
Yeah, because all of a sudden I realized that if I own an asset worth $300,000 at that time, and it goes up in 3% every year, that's $7,000 to $9,000.
Yeah.
And at that time in college, I was barely able to save $5,000 a year by just being ultra frugal and kind of ruining my life over just frugality.
Yeah, 100%. Right? So you read this book. You probably got your first job, I'm assuming, at the time out of college.
Yeah,
how did it work? How did you buy your first property? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was really anxious. So I got a job making $16.90 an hour.
Wow.
And got pre-qualified for, I think at that time it was $250,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I could do because I had no debt.
Yeah.
And bought a 4-bedroom house in Layton for $215,000.
That's great. And how much did you put down on that property?
The minimum.
Okay.
I think it was 3%.
3% at a time.
I'm not honestly sure, but I think it was 3.
Yeah,
I
probably.
did a conventional loan.
Yeah.
It might have been 5. But
you can, as a first-time home buyer, you can definitely do 3%. So it's probably what you did. So you put 3% down. You had a property. Was it a duplex? What was kind of just a regular single-family house? Had a mother-in-law apartment? How was it? What did you do here?
Yeah, I wanted a duplex or some sort of small multi-unit, and I just struck out. So I was still single, and I just bought a house with 4 bedrooms, and then I rented out the other 3.
Amazing.
To my cousin and 2 of his buddies.
So at that point, whatever your mortgage was, your other roommates basically helped pay that off.
My mortgage was just over $1,100 a month.
That's amazing. How old were you at the time?
24, 5.
Yeah, that's great. For a single
graduated
24-year-old, you got friends that are also single. That's great. So you bought that property, and then, obviously the snowball effect, you bought a lot of properties. What kind of happened after that? How were you able to kind of buy more properties? Tell us what you did there on your next property.
I made the goal back then to not put money into anything but real estate.
Okay.
And so, like I said, back when I was in college, I was probably saving $5,000 or so a year, and that got me my first. And then, so I charged my roommates $400 a room, and my mortgage was $1,100 a month. Oh. So between 3 roommates, I paid the utilities on the house, but I was free in the house. And then once I got my first job, I was making about $40,000 out of college, but I was saving 50% of it. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a car payment.
Mortgage, you don't have a car payment. You're just saving for the next fund.
Yeah, so I saved about $20,000, and that wasn't enough to buy an investment property the traditional way, which is 10 to 20% down, 10 to 25% down. And so I went out of state, and I bought a dumpy, I think it was $68,000 house in Memphis. I went to the real estate meetups, and I just told myself I was going to buy a property every year. And anyways, that's all I could do. That was the only thing I put 20% down.
And the 20% down investment.
Yeah, it was about $20,000, probably 15% down, 5 in closing costs.
What was your research on, like, Memphis, of all places, from Utah to Memphis?
It wasn't good. Like, in all honesty, like, you'll read all the books and they'll be like, you have to buy with this code and this process and these rules. And like,
you just went out and did. You just went out. You're like, this is it. I'm going to go out there, and I think this could be a good area.
Yeah. I never went. I never saw it. I actually sold it recently, and I still never saw it. I
awesome.
Just went to some real estate meetups, and there were turnkey sellers, which, looking back, was a horrible deal. Like I got hosed on it.
Yeah, but
I still made out really well on it.
Great.
But looking back, I bought really unintelligently, but I just had that goal.
What would be your suggestion to someone to do that? Let's say someone wants to buy a property in, like, Memphis. What would you say the route? You say you regret kind of what you did, but what would you do now from what you've learned?
So I can answer that in so many ways. There's a reason that house was $70,000, and that's because it was a dumpy house in a dumpy neighborhood with, I don't want to be too critical, but really poor tenants.
Yeah, it was just that's why that was priced.
Yeah, and I did it twice, and the next year I went and bought in Florida, like $72,000, about the same thing. I saved another $20,000.
Saved $20,000 for 20% down investment.
Yeah, buying
and you were a W-2, just working at a 9-to-5 job, W-2, saving 50% of your income.
Yeah,
looking at the right markets in the right areas where you could put 20% down.
Yeah,
and then in turn, you either had it cover the rent, but equity was building. And that's great.
Yeah, they never cost me another dime. The cash flow was good, but the tenants were poor. So every year I had to essentially reinvest all the cash flow into just fixing it up.
Yeah,
but they were stable assets, and they never were any trouble.
You property manage those yourself, or did you find a company?
No, I managed all my local properties, but I had property management out of state.
Okay, cool. Did you every time you bought an investment property, did you always just save up to 20% and find the right market, or did you do other things kind of to look into the financing?
No, when I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
I did.
Gotcha.
Oh, but my whole story is then after I did that a few times, and I got started getting some equity. At that point, I broke through the broke W-2, barely saving enough to do anything phase. And then once you get that first $60,000 check, or $100,000 check,
a house.
Yeah, the game changes. And then I got smarter, and then I became an agent, and then that's kind of the story.
That's a cool story, though, as far as discipline. You saved money really good and found the right markets to put 20% down, because obviously in Utah, it's 20% down is going to be really hard.
Even back then it was like $50,000.
Yeah, so I mean,
$60,000.
now it's 100 probably, roughly, depending on the market. So I mean, but finding the right market, it's just phenomenal. So you were able to basically quit the rat race 9-to-5 job, and basically you learned so much by investing yourself. You became a real estate agent, and now you teach others that. That's just phenomenal as far as good for you, man. So
thank you.
How did it get started to transition to like, oh, I like doing this a lot. I like saving my money and buying investment properties. What got you is it just because naturally that's real estate to become a real estate agent? What got you into the market as, profession as a real estate agent?
It was, people talk about the importance of loving what you do and being in alignment with what you believe. Prior, I was in sales, selling fuel cards and things for truckers.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was grinding on the phone 8 hours a day.
You hate what you sell. You're just it's a recipe that you're not going to be successful.
Yeah, I did. I hated what I sold. I didn't believe in it. And then I ended up taking a job in nutrition, like supplement manufacturing.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. Like this whole time in all my other jobs, I loved real estate.
Yeah, you were thinking about real estate. You were saving everything. You were saving for real estate. You learned things, and then now you're doing it in your passion. So that's great. How has it been going lately in this last, 3-4 years? It's been a roller coaster for most agents and loan officers as far as super low rates, but crazy inventory to 20 offers on a property to 0 offers. Like, how's it been lately for you?
Last year was my best year ever by far.
That's amazing.
Again, it was only my 3rd year, but it was
still amazing. Good for you,
man. Away. Every year has been considerably better than the last.
That's great. So, Rich Dad Poor Dad, great book, got you inspired to go into real estate and buy real estate, and then you just did it the traditional: save money, half your paychecks, and buy it in the right market where you could put it down. How many investment properties do you have now?
5 units.
That's great. And you said, how many did you sell? Have you sold or you've bought in the last 11, 12 years?
Yeah, I should have prepped more.
Top of your head,
I think at some point I've touched or been part of 11 different
That's
deals.
crazy to think, because when did you start? What year did you start buying?
17.
So you really were buying more than one property a year then, or roughly?
No, the first 4 years was very linear. Okay. And then when I became an agent, all of a sudden I was in the right groups and deals started coming, and I had funds to do deals with.
Yeah.
I think that's the big hiccup that I think people struggle with, is when you don't have someone in the family that can help you, you don't have someone that can mentor you, you don't have any money. It's a grind.
I think it's really inspiring that you read a book, taught yourself, and just went out and did it. And now you can teach others, you can teach clients how to do it. And it's clearly your passion. So that book inspired you to do that. You were mentioning some other books that you've read that, are super interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about some of the books that you've read that have helped you get to the next level?
Yeah, I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
I need to listen to more podcasts, but I read a lot
or
of
a
books.
Definition of applying something after you read, because that's amazing as far as, within an 8-year, 9-year span buying that many properties. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I'll be more transparent. I don't read at all. I audible
I can't read after college. College was so hard for me because you can't. Some of the college textbooks, like OChem,
brutal.
I have to. I told my wife I cannot read a book. I just can't. She makes fun of me, but I audible all day long. So same thing though, but I can't. My mind gets all PTSD. OChem, I can't do this. So so audible. What book now kind of you've listened to that kind of got you to the next level?
I think the most applicable book, so Rich Dad Poor Dad, is the mindset book. Yeah. That'll teach you how to think about money differently, but doesn't do a good job of telling you what and how to do.
Gotcha.
And the book for me that I think I finished it for my 5th time last year is called Set for Life by Scott Trench from Bigger Pockets. And that was everything I just said that I did is outlined in that book.
Really?
It talks about, saving, making your first $25,000, buying your first home, which has to be a house hack, keeping your expenses super low, saving 50% of your income, breaking the $100,000 savings mark, and then moving into a sales position where you can double, triple, quadruple your income.
Gotcha. So when you mean house hack, for people that are listening here, that's something like a duplex, or buying a house that may need renovating, and then it has a mother-in-law apartment, and you can rent out both, the mother-in-law down below and then upstairs. So it not only covers the mortgage, but it also gets you some, have to have excess cash flow. And so that gave you more of a playbook then to help you go out and execute.
Yeah. So, the basic definition of the house hack, like you're saying, is just cutting your living expenses in half in any way you can by renting out some portion of the home you're living in.
It's cool.
Because if you look at the statistics, the average mortgage right now of any first-time home buyer is a little over 40%.
Yeah.
Just about every first-time home buyer is maxing out their pre-approvals.
Yes.
To afford in this market.
Yeah, it's tough, especially in Utah.
Really well.
Especially in Utah, I've told people house hacking, as far as finding a mother-in-law apartment, is incredible. My first home that I bought actually had a mother-in-law apartment.
Cool. And
the basement was a great location. I actually bought it in Layton, Utah, actually.
Nice.
And the mother-in-law apartment was able to cover 75% of the mortgage. It was amazing. So I went from renting to owning this house, and now my payment to live in this house is like, it was like $1,000 cheaper to live in the house, build up equity. And it was just a great experience for me and my wife with our little kids to be able to have. I remember at one time we were able to save so much money because of that too, because our expenses were low. I paid off my car. I was able to, instead of paying it towards my mortgage, because my renter was, I could pay it towards my car, and I paid it off. So stuff like that's super inspiring. So what was the book again you said?
Set for Life.
Set for Life.
Scott Trench.
I mean, I have to ask you about books, because you are like, you apply everything that you're reading, it seems. What other books you got on top of your head, if I may ask, that you've listened to or that you like lately?
Again, I can answer that in a few different ways. My favorite books of all time. It's hard. So what I'm reading right now is Do the Impossible.
Okay.
By Jason Drees. He's a mindset book. It's odd. It's kind of a weird book. Yeah. But it's focused on getting in alignment with a better version of yourself. So the book often encourages you to think of like who you want to be, like the ideal you, and then almost forcing yourself to pretend that you already are that person, and then acting as... So
you're creating the alter ego you want to be, and then you just become it. Fake it to make it type thing?
Yeah, almost. You know, what would your perfect self be doing every morning? And now just start doing that.
So every time you make a decision, what would that perfect? You just go do it.
Yeah, get in alignment with who you want to be.
Killer.
So that's a cool book.
That's great. What's your goals in real estate for long term? How do you think properties you think that you want to reach personally that could help you have financial freedom forever? Everyone has kind of different goals. What are yours, if I may ask?
Short term attainable is I'd like to have 5 units paid off.
Okay, cool.
That's the Dave Ramsey that still lives in me.
Gotcha.
I think peace is more important than wealth. Like
I think
super
right.
Wealth. Because like wealth is peace, but some people want to take over the world.
Yeah,
and that's not me. I'd love to have.
I think making smart decisions. What's so inspiring about your story is that, I mean, $40,000 a year in your first job, and you were still able to buy real estate because you saved. So the people that save money, instead of just saving all your money over 30 years and just not spending it, historically we have, clients that I've seen done that. They never bought investment properties, they never invested, but they, after 30 years, they have like $700,000, $1,000 million saved. But what you did is you went out and used every piece of your savings in real estate, and it created financial freedom, which I think is a lot different than just wealth. So, having 5 units paid off in your 50s and your 60s with that cash flow, that's a very comfortable living. And that also probably is comfortable for you now because you can do sales because the other stuff covers your bills. So if anyone wants to buy real estate and they're a W-2 worker, and a lot of people say, oh, well, I'm not like the rich, wealthy, self-employed guy that makes a ton of money and can buy a lot of real estate. That's incorrect. You can buy real estate just by as low as $40,000 a year in income like you did. So that's inspiring for people listening to this, that they can buy real estate. They just need to know how. Anything you've learned that you'd like to tell these people that are looking to invest, that maybe it's their first time or multiple time that you've learned as a real estate agent that you could give advice to?
Sure. So I was president of NewREA, the Northern Utah Real Estate Investors Association, for 2 years. And there's a big misconception, because there's a lot of books out there that's how to take down the world's biggest deal when you know nothing, and how to invest in real estate with no money down, and Grant Cardone's, don't skip your primary residence and go buy an apartment complex because you're me, and I strongly disagree with those books, because I think that creates barriers for people to never get started. What matters is buy your primary residence just the moment you can. If you're 18 and you're making $18 an hour, buy that, rent it out, and get that snowball working, because I don't think Warren Buffett was a millionaire until he was 30.
Really?
Yeah, it was 30 or 31. So if you think about him being worth 100, 200, whatever he is today, it's a slow grind. And real estate's the same way. You're not going to take down an apartment complex when you're 18. Or if you're 30 and you know nothing about real estate. You need to learn the basics. You need to learn how to become a landlord. You need to learn what an escrow account is. You need to learn how the financing works.
For some people just learn how to save money every month. And that's one thing I'd like to ask you on that. How did you budget making that, amount of money every month, as far as, you had things paid off, but what's something for financial, people that are struggling to save money every month? What did you do? Did you avoid going to fast food? Did you did budget for groceries? How did you get through to save that money? What was the things you did at that time?
I think my real start was one of the first books I read out of high school was Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover or Financial Peace University. One of the he's got a few of them. I've read them all, and then I did attend Dave Ramsey's course. It's $100.
You attended the course. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I was like a big Dave Ramsey nerd before I got into the investing mindset. And so I was just I did the Ramsey baby steps.
That's great.
The moment I was 18.
I think that's a phenomenal thing. Yeah, it's crazy that at times they should have courses in college. That stuff is like, you learned how to budget first, and then you used that discipline and that, I say it's a talent, because me and my wife had to basically save and have, I could not, we were very poor. Like if I went to Taco Bell and spent more than that $1 bean burrito, like, okay, well now I can't get a bean burrito tomorrow. I go with the crispy bean. I remember those days. So it's like learning how to budget and also learning from being poor. Like I don't want to be poor ever again.
Yeah.
It makes you work hard, but learning that budget first, I think it's great. So yeah, I think this is a great plug for the books you've read for people that want to learn. But super inspiring story, man. I think, and you're crushing it right now as a great real estate agent because you practice what you preach. That's what I love about a lot of real estate agents. You'd be surprised, have maybe one house or don't buy and sell that much at all. It's crazy to me that for you, what's amazing is that you practice what you preach because you actually do it time in. You've done it multiple times. You can help your clients not only buy their first house, but multiple houses because you've done it. So last question I have for you is, what's your why? Why do you do it? All business, family, anything. I love asking this question to people is like, what's their why in life of why they do what they do? Tough one, I know.
Yeah, that needed a
second.
Yeah. I think my why is I understand. I don't understand, but I know that every year seems to go by faster than the last, and life is just getting shorter. It's a downhill thing.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think I have a pretty good grasp of how limited time is in this life, and I always thought that. My first jobs, I worked hard. I was working 8 to 10 hours a day and just work. And that's a horrible life because if you're awake for 17 hours a day or whatever, and you're working away 10 of it, and then you only have the other 7 to have fun and be with family and enjoy life. I've always wanted to get the work optional. Like, I only want to work if I like what I'm doing. And even though I even love being an agent,
so I'd
still way rather be hanging out with my daughter or my wife or my friends or whatever than I would be showing houses.
Yeah.
And so I think financial freedom for me has always been a big time thing that I just want to be free. And I just want money to be optional, work to be optional. I just want that out of my life.
Yeah.
I'd much rather live the next, I just turned 31, so my next 70 years, whatever I got left. I'd like that to be as close to work-free as possible so then I can do what I want and live the life I want and be with the people I want and serve and live a better life. And work is such a drag on our lives. If I can get away from it somehow, that's super motivating to me.
I love that answer. Thank you so much. That was a mic drop, if you ask me. A wonderful, genuine answer. I appreciate you. Brad, last thing, how can someone get a hold of you for real estate? Do you have a Facebook page or anything like that, or a good contact information we can plug you in on the podcast?
Yeah, I'd love to pitch. I'm active in the Ogden. I live in Ogden, Utah, and I serve the Davis, Weber, and Box Elder counties more than anything.
Awesome.
And if my best contact is to find me on Facebook.
Okay.
I post every day, and I'm very active on there. So if you want to know more about me, you will.
I love it.
Follow me
at Jacobson Real Estate Agent.
At Jacobson, equity real estate, and I own a sub brand called Jacobson Realty.
Jacobson
Realty, Utah. So
perfect. Well, thanks for having us on. That was awesome. I love that you can teach people that is you save money. You can definitely get and reach financial freedom by saving money and buying real estate. So thanks for having you, and you're the man.
Thank you. This is really fun. I appreciate you.
Awesome. We'll have you on again.